Hey, this is Josh X reacting for Dojo 7, and today we'll be reviewing the Issa Rae Stanford University graduation speech. As always, we want to hear from you in the comments with your thoughts and video suggestions. And never forget that you can check out dojo7.com for apparel and other ways to support. Let's get to it. One thing just off the bat, Issa Rae has a really good masterclass course on the masterclass program. We're not sponsored yet. Holla at us for script writing. So if you're interested in growing as a writer, Issa has a good one. Spike Lee has a good one. Shonda Rhimes has a good one. And I think there's one more that are definitely worth checking out for, just guidance and tips and tricks on getting your writing, first of all, done, and then also picked up. You know what I mean? Let's do it.
Stanford University.
Stanford, when I was middle school and early high school, was my dream school to go to. And I actually got accepted on a full scholarship. And because my mom was sick and I wanted to stay closer to Mississippi, that was a big part of the reason I chose Davidson over Stanford.
Please join me in welcoming Issa Rae.
Hello, good morning. Thank you guys for the warm welcome. Thank you for hosting me. Thank you to the president for having me here and the student body presidents for nominating me. It's such an honor and privilege to be your class of 2021 commencement speaker.
I noticed they did not hook her up with honorary degrees and such based off of the regalia that she's in.
I'm both delighted and terrified to speak here at my alma mater and what is hands down the best school in the world. And I can say that because I've been to every school on earth, so you can trust me. Before I start, I just want to acknowledge, as the speakers before me have, that you guys are incredible for making it this far. Obviously, this past year and a half has tested so many of us, and I can't imagine having to muster up the enthusiasm, much less the strength, to finish getting my degree while the world was falling apart around us, but you fucking did it. And I promise you that despite the insane...
I also want to pause that we love Issa. We love Issa Rae. I've never seen a single episode of Insecure or Rap Shit, but you should go watch them both. I believe that was also her behind the Awkward Black Girl series. I haven't seen an episode of that, but I just love what I've seen from her in interviews. I love her business moves. I love her personality. I love what appears to be her character. As always, when you are entering public commentary on celebrities, you have to acknowledge, we don't really know these people, but from what I see about her, I have a positive regard and a positive perception.
Despite the insanity and uncertainty you've endured, you will cherish these years and the people around you for the rest of your life, and you can actually trust me on that. It took me leaving here to realize it, but this place is truly amazing. The community I built at this school is without a doubt the reason I was able to pursue my dreams and why I was asked to speak here today before you. And so this morning, I'd like to walk you through how this community shaped me, if that's okay with you.
So before she jumps into that, that's something I learned way later in life than, if I had been designing my own path instead of in collaboration with God, that I would have learned a lot sooner. And that's just the importance of the community and the village around you and investing in that and being intentional and persistent and consistent and aggressive about investing in that. And another word for that is your network. But just the heights, that I aspire to and that a lot of you who are following the channel, if this is the type of stuff that you like, are thinking about. So much around it is who you know, who you get along with, who you like, who you trust. And of course, that's on a business and a professional level, but also on a quality of life and a fulfillment level. When it's time for me to advise people to go to college, building that network and that community and treating it as valuable or more as your degree is a nugget that I would impart to them. And it doesn't stop after that. It's harder. It's just so much harder to build connections outside of that incubative environment. You know, you get out here in the real world, people don't have common meeting spaces. Everybody got bills and stressors. You know, family is just, it's more difficult to build these connections and networks. But shout out to LinkedIn. Also not a sponsor, but holla at me. It makes it a lot easier. And social in general. Everything has pros and cons.
Thank you for that approval. So it actually all started here for me. I remember sitting where you all sat at my own graduation, a lot closer together, when I was 22. My friends and I had just done the hypest wacky walk of all time. I'm standing by that. We carried a boombox and we were blasting Boosie, Fox, and Webby's Wipe Me Down remix. That iconic song would serve as our...
Shout out Boosie. Motherfuckers in Jew City love some motherfucking Boosie badass.
As our personal anthem for future birthdays, holidays, more graduations, weddings, reunions, kickbacks, and congratulatory celebrations. I didn't realize it at the time, but the opening bars of that bop would serve as a personal mantra for me and the way I move through my community and through my own spaces in life. But more on that later. A couple of months prior to our graduation, there was a rumor that started spreading that Oprah was going to be our commencement speaker.
What's the opening bars to Wipe Me Down? I wonder if she gonna use the Fox verse or she gonna use the Boosie verse. A lot of people don't give Fox his credit for being on that song. But I pull up at the club, VIP, gas tank on E, but all drinks on me. Hey, that's that hood rich shit.
And we were all excited as hell. Like, I was especially hyped because Oprah was and is one of my core 3 inspirations, along with Diddy and Ellen. This was 2007, so chill on me. I couldn't believe that Oprah herself was gonna come and send off our class into greatness. It was like, wow, what a way to go out. And then a few weeks before, it was announced that we were getting a poet laureate to speak, and I said, a poet laureate? And I was triggered because I've never been cultured enough to enjoy just like raw poetry. My shit needs to be cooked a little. But I still went in with an open mind. However, you can't play a song like Wipe Me Down and then just sit down and listen to dry words, no matter how brilliant they were, and they were. So unfortunately, my mind closed really quickly. And in my defense, I was so hyped off of the adrenaline of finally entering into the next phase of my life. And I tuned everything out to cherish the final moments with my friends. For the last time, we'd all be in the same city. So we were quietly cracking jokes, laughing and sharing memories with one another in the audience via text. And in hindsight, it was disrespectful. And if you're doing that during my speech right now, absolutely no hard feelings. I forgive you because I'm on your time. My West African dad, however, was sitting up in the audience watching me seething. He sent me a text from above, and he said, stop acting like a fool and show some respect. And I was like, how you see me damn? Like, we were so close when I tell you. So my dad was particularly upset that day because up until that point, he was under the impression that I had spent the last 4 years majoring in political science. And I had already disappointed him once in high school when I discovered after working at his Inglewood clinic and interning at Killer King Hospital that I didn't like to see people in pain, and I no longer wanted to be a doctor like he was. But then he bounced back quickly and he was like, oh, there's always law or business. And so
also, just shout out to dads, man. Dads are important. Fathers are important. Fathers are important. Fathers are important. I'll say it a billion fucking times. And if you are a father, have the opportunity to be a father, you realize how important you are, man. And a lot of these motherfuckers you see doing things, and let me not say it like that. I personally believe it is harder to reach for the edge of your capabilities without the influence of a strong father. Not impossible, but just more difficult, in my opinion.
Respectfully.
And so I was like, okay, cool, I'll pursue law then. And so instead, he learned that day, via the snitch ceremony pamphlets, I guess, that I had actually not majored in poli-sci. And after the ceremony, he yelled, African American studies, you may as well have majored in flowers. And I didn't understand why botany had to catch a stray like that, but he was quite pissed. To my credit, I took all the courses to be able to declare, but when it came time to answer the simple question of why I wanted to major in political science, I could only think because my dad wanted me to. And so I didn't. I wanted to be a writer, I wanted to pursue film, TV, and at the time, theater, and I wanted to tell our stories. But I was also too scared to pursue it as anything but a hobby until Stanford and the community I built here changed that for me. So now I'd like to revisit the song Wipe Me Down that I was just telling you about and deconstruct those influential bars that shaped my approach and worldview. What are those magical lyrics, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Fox opens the first verse.
This is why Issa a real one. We love Issa.
With these powerful 2 sentences. I pull up at the club, VIP, gas tank on E, but all drinks on me. Wipe me down.
Wipe my love. Yeah. I pull up at the club, VIP,
Gas tank on E, but all drinks on me. Wipe it out.
That is the kind of seasoned poetry I can get behind. Let me repeat that. I pull up at the club, VIP, gas tank on E, but all drinks on me, wipe me down. When I use my Stanford education to break these lyrics down, I can't help but to think of my own journey and what your journey will ultimately be. Now, mind you, a lot of this will be a reach, but so were most of the papers I turned in here, so just bear with me. So let's start with the first bar. I pull up at the club, VIP. Now here, imagine you're entering the club of life. Over the years, I've learned how essential it's been for me to approach every opportunity as a VIP, as someone who belongs and deserves to be here.
Bars.
That was a lesson I began to learn at Stanford. From the moment I started my first class at this school, I started to question whether or not I truly deserved to be here. I thought I was great at calculus until I took Math 42, that first quarter, and my entire world collapsed. And I was like, can I even add? Like, what the fuck was AP Calc for? Why did I do that? And then a couple of quarters in, I learned, like many of you did, I'm sure, oh.
Shout out to the camera person being very skillful and selective about picking the black people out of the crowd to show them reacting to the commencement speaker.
Oh, everybody feels like that here. And everybody worries that they don't deserve to be here. And then I settled in and slowly started to create the spaces that made me comfortable on campus. When I felt the drama department was a little too white to fit into, I was able to get the resources from Stanford to put on multicultural theatrical productions for all 4 years that I was here. And thank you. And my fellow classmates rallied to support my admittedly very bootleg productions by either being in the shows, helping me behind the scenes, and buying tickets to attend them. After my second year of putting on plays, I felt like I could actually write, direct, and produce professionally. So when I was a sophomore here, we didn't have a film program yet, so I stopped out of school to try to pursue film in LA. At 19, I had co-written a feature film script with my
Also took a break from school to pursue music.
With my writing partner at the time, a fellow Stanford classmate who shared my love for 90s black romances, and gassed that we had written something special, we begged our parents to let us take some time off to try to get this film made and make it in Hollywood. Her parents were cool about it, but my mom was worried about my commitment, like, don't waste this time. And my dad was like, don't waste our money. And I promised them both that I would come back to school if nothing happened by the end of that quarter. And they agreed to let me stop out. Long story short, we did not make it in Hollywood. And I learned—
Because it takes more than 3 months, man. You know, you hearing her talk about she been working on these productions damn near since a freshman. Not damn near, since a freshman. Yeah, man. Sometimes it take longer than you think to make things happen. Sometimes it don't, but sometimes it do.
So many disheartening lessons about the kinds of stories Hollywood was not interested in telling. Lessons that would make me question whether I could ever tell stories in this industry at all. So I came back to finish out school, tail between my legs, and continued to put on these plays that built my confidence as a creative.
Super senior is what is packed into that tail between my legs statement. Stigma is what is packed into that tail between my legs statement.
My senior year, after still trying and failing to secure writing opportunities because I was told my work didn't have an audience and it couldn't sell, I got the inspiration, as you heard, to create a web series that I called Dorm Diaries. The series was about being black at Stanford and featured my friends who were playing archetypes. Like, hey girl, I have this whole character, you should play her.
That might be Quinta Bronson, that's awkward black girl. I get their, I do not get them confused, but I do get their original career launching series confused. Quinta might be awkward black girl. Issa, from her own confession, might be Dorm Diaries, but that might change too. But shout out to Quinta Bronson, and hopefully she clears this up in the speech.
It's not about you. And in some cases, my friends were putting in hours for class, their schoolwork, rehearsals for the play that I was putting on, and then dedicating their time to be in this hobby of a web series that I made. And that's love. And then when I released the series on Facebook, again, this was 2007, guys, get off my back, the outpouring of support for the episodes from my community made me realize that Hollywood was wrong about there not being an audience for the stories that I wanted to tell. So as you leave this campus and venture out, whether you're starting a new job or going to grad school or figuring out your purpose from gig to gig, make sure you pull up at the club VIP, because you're exactly where you're supposed to be. But fast forward to 2011, I'm 4 years out of college, very broke, not where I want to be at all. And I have this one idea for a series called The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl that I've been sitting on for 2 years because I don't have the resources or the money to make it happen.
Shout out to Quinta, and glad we clearing that up.
And out of the blue, my friend's old crush hits me up saying that he's been thinking about pursuing acting and asks if I know of any classes or opportunities to please send them his way. I tell him I will absolutely be on the lookout. And then when I finally pressure myself to stop making excuses and decide to make the first episode of Awkward Black Girl, he is the first person I called to act in it. I didn't have much of a script, just a concept, but he was down because he wanted the experience. And as the series started to grow, I was getting progressively more poor, but my small extended Stanford community started to come through in ways that I just didn't expect. The girl that I mentioned co-writing the script with at 19, my sophomore year, came on as a producer and helped up the production quality of the series. And then when we started a small writer's room for Awkward Black Girl, we tapped another girl from Stanford who was a year older than us, who I didn't even speak to, or she didn't speak to me at the time. We didn't know each other. And she was working to break into the industry. And then the two of them were just as broke as I was, gas tanks on E, but they rallied together to buy drinks and help me make the series. And then when I couldn't afford to make the show anymore, it was our mutual Stanford friends, and in some cases administrators, who donated either personally or via Kickstarter to keep the series going. And I thought I had to shout out Ms. Jan Barker-Alexander, who was just so instrumental in so much of my experience here and outside. The outpouring of support from this community of people who I met here on campus are the reason I was able to ultimately make the show of my dreams for HBO, Insecure. And in my own industry journey, no matter my circumstances, I've always made it a priority to buy the next round of drinks for upcoming creatives, figuratively speaking, sometimes literally too. So did that work? Are y'all still with me? Okay, well that brings me to my last golden nugget of a sentence. The refrain, wipe me down. The refrain commands respect. It says, give me my props, I've earned them. And yesterday morning, I finished shooting the final season of my show, Insecure. Thank you. And when I wrapped what ended up being a very grueling week and a final 20-hour day, I got teary-eyed while thanking one of my Awkward Black Girl OGs from my curated Stanford community. She started with me on the web series back in 2011 and ended with me as an executive producer on the TV show just yesterday. And she was standing right across from me, and then right next to her stood one of my best friends, another alum who creatively inspired one of the main characters in the series, whether she wanted to or not, low-key. And this is a show that I was writing for 8 years, shooting for 6, and a series that the industry just 10 years ago was confident wouldn't have an audience. We were nominated for 8 Emmys last year and won one, and we got to shoot 5 seasons of it on our terms. So, wipe me down. That show and my journey was literally made possible, not by any mentors or connections to the industry. It was made by tapping into the people sitting next to me at one point. Connecting with new people after school is especially hard during this time and climate, but if nothing else, the isolation and circumstances of last year made the relationships I've been able to build over time that much more dear to me. And I will continue to value these relationships as I enter this exciting next chapter of my life, much like you all are. So as you leave here today, many of you might be wondering what the hell is next? You might feel smart and satisfied with your experience here, but unprepared. Or you may feel lost for a bit as you figure out what moves to make, or where to go, and how to make the most of the time and hella money you spent here. Many of those answers are sitting right next to you, or across from you, or behind you. Build and tap into your community. The brilliant minds in this room will have a hand in shaping the culture, making the world better, leaving long-lasting legacies behind, and doing a bunch of other important shit. I've watched so many people in my own class do just that, and I can't wait to witness what you all contribute to the world.
We're gonna leave it right there. Love this. Glad that this one came into the reaction slate. Something that's important when people are telling their stories to key in on and tease out is the shortened or unsaid parts that probably while they were experiencing it didn't feel shortened or unsaid and probably felt very long, and whatever emotions were being experienced at that time probably had a high level of intensity. She talks about being broke for years. She talked about the doubt. She talked about all of the negative feedback. And a lot of times when successful people are telling their stories, because they have to speak in a condensed window, there's not as much exposition of those, tough nights, tough days, tough thoughts, tough conversations. And she did speak to that. So if you ever are in those kind of moments, man, or, I'm saying man as a universal pronoun, don't be discouraged, stay encouraged. And then your community, care for it, value it. And if you find yourself in a season of isolation or a lifetime of isolation, as I sometimes feel that I found myself in, once that light bulb clicks, and you're able to start finding the connections that you want to make, need to make, care to make, and the ability to do so, man, lean into that, sharpen that, is very, very important. That's going to be it for the reaction. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and throw us a like. You can also subscribe if you want to keep up to date with the releases that we're putting on the channel. As always, you can check out dojo7.com for apparel and other ways to support. And if you think this will be valuable to anybody in your network, please share it. I'm Josh X, reacting for Dojo 7, And that's going to be it. I'm out. Peace.